Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of On the Range Podcast with Hogg Tactical and Kelley Defense. I am Mark Kelley, and joined as always is my co-host and friend, Rick Hogg from Hogg Tactical. How's it going, buddy?
Man, Mark, my day is going even better because let me show you guys. Bam, there it is. The crew, El Prez or El Presidente, new hat, 4570. I mean, it turned out fantastic. So great job to you, buddy. For the listeners, you'll have to go to On the Range Podcast to the shop and check out the hat. But that's the new one, man.
Yeah.
It is new crew hat. It is absolutely fantastic. But just want to thank you, the viewer listener out there, for giving us your most precious commodity, your time to tune in. Guys, we couldn't do without you. Do us a huge favor if you would. Swing by warhog.com, kelleydefense.com, and On the Range Podcast. Sign up for those newsletters. Wherever you listen at, whether it's YouTube, Spotify, Apple, whatever, go ahead and subscribe. Leave us a rating review if you would, because that's what's going to help this whole digital algorithm and have more people be able to listen or get that accessibility to On the Range Podcast, helping themselves become 1% better every single day.
Yeah, buddy. As always, today's episode is brought to you by the Firearms Training Notebook, which is appropriate because today's episode is titled Accountability. The Firearms Training Notebook, 1% better every day from Hogg Tactical and Kelley Defense. A great way, really the only way to track your progression, write down your tangible datas, and help plan out your dry fire and your live fire regiments. It's the thing about it is if you're not doing any of those things, if you're not tracking it, writing that data down, you can't follow your progression. You can't see it, and you can't plan the next day of training. So it's been a big hit. You go to ontheRangePodcast.com and click the TFT or the Firearms Training Notebook button. Go right to Amazon. You can purchase it, send it right to your house. They're flying off the shelves. It's getting warmer out there, so that's one less excuse you have to be accountable with your firearms training without the bad weather. But yeah, man, go check that out. And also, while you're there, check out the crew members. Like Rick said, he's got his brand new 4547 crew membership hat, and it's just awesome, man. Become a member if you go to ontheRangePodcast.com. You can try it for free. If you join the tiers, you can get our training catalogs, and you also get the Zoom calls with Rick and I I'd say every couple of weeks, really. It doesn't take very long for those things to come around.
Yep.
But it's a lot of fun, and you get to interact with a like-minded group of international folks. And Rick, the accountability piece that we talk about all the time, the 1% better every day, it's something that we used to be accountable to ourselves. Are we doing the right stuff? Are we doing the things that we need to do to become an asset and not a liability, and just be as good as we can be at what we're supposed to be doing? A lot of people worry about all kinds of other things. It's nonsense, instead of focusing on what they're doing and trying to become better at it and holding each other and their friends accountable.
Yeah. And, this day and age, there's a lack thereof of accountability. And if you just kind of look at current events, so that email that went out to the government employees, hey, man, tell us 5 things you did this week. Not a big ask. And man, you had people in an uproar. Man, if you worked in any other business and your boss sent you out an email and said, hey, man, tell me 5 things you did today, what are you going to do? You're going to sit there and reply, hey, I did this, I did that, I did that. Same principle applies with life. You got to, how are you holding yourself accountable? So, fitness and firearms, that's a big piece for us. What are you doing? In the firearms training notebook, that's a piece. So a lot of guys will have some type of notebook when they go to the gym, but what are you doing for your firearms? Can you combine the two? So we talked about this earlier today in a conversation. Hey, man, had a nice day. Dude, whenever possible, I'm always in the gym getting my workout in. Now I was telling Mark, yeah, on the colder days, I got to wear gloves, right? Because all my steel in there is cold. So you go to sit there and whether it's the bar or, dumbbells, whatever, dude, it gets a little rough, man. Look like, what's his name on Christmas Story?
Flick?
No. Who's the
main character?
Yeah.
Ralphie?
Ralphie, that's it. I wound up with Ralphie looking like on the flagpole, right? Except I got dumbbells or I got a barbell stuck in my hands because,
Right.
dude, those things, they get brutally cold. But anyway, um, but it's holding yourself accountable to get those things done. It doesn't matter whether it's that, what are you doing to enhance your family life, faith, finances, all these things are accountable to you. Now, if you have a group or a crew, it makes things easier, right? Bounce stuff off, hold each other accountable. Hey, man, where's your range buddy? Somebody to talk to, confidant, whatever you want. But if you don't have some type of network, i.e., a crew, uh, can you hold yourself accountable? I believe you still can. Takes a lot more discipline.
Yeah.
You've got to sit there and have a plan for what you're doing and how you're going to hold yourself accountable. Dude, I hate, to me with the firearms training notebook, I've combined it, right? So it's a fitness and firearms book. So I've got my workout in there. I've got my dry fire regimen. There's nothing worse than sitting there going, man, I got a date gap, right? Sit there and go, show me the book. What do you
Yeah.
mean? What happened yesterday, right? I got it. Some things come up, life happens. I got it. But, um, you definitely don't want to make it 2, 3, 4, 8 days, whatever the case may be, for those two, in my opinion. So just have that system in place. But, going back to the email that went out to the government employees, man, those that are balking, those that argued, hey, when that refund check comes, I sure hope you send it back. So,
Yeah.
um, and then kind of the other thing, on the accountability side that got me a little bit, this last Project Officer Survival we did down in Florida had some guys no show. And the problem with that is here we are offering free law enforcement red dot pistol training, and we limit it to a couple officers per agency. But here's the thing, if you can't make it for some reason, just let us know. Just don't no show, because we can at least put the word out. Hey man, slot opened up. In one case, I can't necessarily hold that officer accountable. I do hold his leadership accountable. So in one particular case, um, I guess there was a flu going around, a bunch of guys called out, and they called this guy in who was supposed to be scheduled for training. Now, I don't know if it was a day off. I didn't get into all the weeds, simple phone call. Hey, man, you going to make it? Oh, sorry, dude. They called me into work. So that's a leadership accountability issue on that one. The other guy, yeah, his buddy was like, yeah, I don't know where he's at.
Yeah.
So he just opted to sign up and then just blow it off. So again, that was another officer that could have got training because of, lack thereof accountability. If you sign up, great. Looking forward to training with you. If you can't make it, and I've had guys the day before, hey man, this happened, or I got to go to court unbeknownst, right? Whatever the case may be, cool. Let us know. We've got ways that we can notify the network and get somebody there. So don't ever think you can't not say. I'd rather know, hey, somebody's not going to be here, slots open. Hey, if we can't fill it on our end, then hey, that's a lick on us. But give us that respect, and let us know so we can get the slots filled to the max.
Yeah. I mean, it all comes down when we're talking about the piece where, man, it gets cold and it gets hard to keep those days in and stay disciplined. Hey, we get it. We
Mhm.
get it. I mean, sometimes it's good to kick your own butt, and do hard things. And that's a whole nother show.
Oh, yeah.
We're down with that. But, on those, it's the consistency, it's the discipline that's going to hang around, not always the motivation. We talk about that a lot. So
Mhm.
just, you got to hold yourself accountable. Say, nope, I'm going to get a couple rounds of dry fire in there. I'm going to get some fitness training in today. It doesn't have to be, a killer or, have to drive to the gym. It could be anything that you choose it to be. Just make sure that you hold yourself accountable and hold your teammates, hold your
Yeah.
crew, hold your family members. Some of these things just aren't acceptable. And the whole thing about the email, I would have went a different route. I would have made sure that I notified all the department heads and all the agency heads. I would have done that.
Mhm.
I get it. It was kind of a slimy feel to it. But look, here's the bottom line. You work in that world, and Rick and you have a boss, and you
Mhm.
are accountable to somebody. These folks are acting as if they're not accountable to anybody. And we've heard that in many different levels, in many different forms. Some of these folks do not seem that they feel that they have to do anything that anybody else is saying.
Yeah, and it's funny because I know one individual, and she was like, "Pff, who are they to ask what I was doing?" Brother, it, what is wrong with that? Because again, you're trying to clean out an entity, i.e., the federal government, of all this waste and everything else. And so somebody asks what you're doing. What's the big deal? Right? Why are people getting so panicky? Why do they not want to be held accountable? Because they're just looking for that free cash cow. And everyone knows, hey, man, federal government's been a great cash cow for people.
Yeah.
Minimal work, if any, right? Like, hey, does this person even work for the federal government anymore? I don't know. Are they just hanging out at the house sleeping? I don't know. I mean, you sit there and if Mark were to send me an email, say, hey, man, give me 5 things you did for Warhog today. Bam. Like that, it's going to roll off the tongue.
Yeah.
I don't,
Oh, without
and I
question.
understand. Go ahead.
Without question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I can understand your point, right? Hey, clean up the way it was delivered. Hey, if you want to have all your leadership, and that would have made more sense anyway, right? Hey, run it down to the department heads. They can sit there and review, because here's the bottom line. Going back to accountability, you could have somebody sit there and go, well, I did this, this, and this. Is that in the scope of work? I don't know.
Right.
Right. So I agree. And that whole piece requires little more check in there, the accountability, but I don't think it's a bad thing. It's not. So it's no different. And I go back to, my law enforcement side. Military sides, to me, has better ways to hold accountability. The law enforcement side, little loose. And the aspect being this, if I was in, want to take my guys and do dry fire training, we're going to do dry fire training, right? You don't have that flexibility within the law enforcement community, but there's, and I've tried to get agencies to get this one. If you were to purchase you guys a copy of the firearms training notebook, you issue out to all your guys, and then just let them, educate them on it, teach them how to use it, but then circle back, I don't know, a month later. Hey man, let me see your book. And that bad boy hasn't even been cracked. Okay. There's your accountability right there. The dude that's sitting there and has all his pages filled in, or a good hunk of the book. Okay, cool. You're at least doing something. So there's different ways from the leadership aspect, I believe, that you can still have that accountability piece. But it's a matter of what are you doing to check on your people? So accountability in my aspect or in my mind is a twofold deal. Yes, it's always stems at the individual. How do you hold yourself accountable? How do you maintain your standards? But then from the leadership standpoint, what are you doing as that leader to make sure you have accountability for your people and the actions they're doing or not doing? And then, what are you doing should they fail to meet that accountability? What's the next step? So I know going back to the, whole federal government thing, those that didn't answer, all right, that doesn't mean they're necessarily fired right away, but is this person even a person? The email address we're sending to, they even still work for the federal government? I don't know. So that, going back to your case, that's where, again, looking at those supervisors that have better touch with their people, or they should. Hey, Schmuckles, where's he at? I hadn't heard from him for 3 weeks. Might want to go check on him, right? It's basic leadership. So the accountability, at least for me, and I'd love to hear your opinion, Mark, and for the viewer listeners, hey man, tell us in the comments what you think. But I think the accountability goes 2 ways. First and foremost, it's at the individual level. You should be able to hold yourself accountable because you've got the discipline to sit there and go, hey, I've got to do X, Y, and Z. Now I got it. I'm also a realist. I run a business. I understand things happen, right? There's times you run out of, time during the day. Hey, I'm looking to accomplish these X amount of tasks. Well, you know what? I didn't plan on, here's a prime example, this technology drama. right? Oh, I just think I'm going to do this. And next, hey, the computer craps a bit or the Wi-Fi goes out. There's things that happen, right? But then looking at what's that leader doing to ensure they're holding their people accountable, doing spot checks, however they want to do. So I'd just be curious to get your take on that.
Well, I think in many of these cases, I don't think that anybody doubts anything that you just said,
Mhm,
but their first reaction is what everybody's seeing.
mhm,
And I think you're right. I think they know, man, I haven't really been doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And that's a terrible spot to be in. It's just like remember when you were a kid, all of a sudden you realize you got an assignment due the night before or the day of. That's a terrible feeling. That's exactly what many of these people probably are. Now, the
mhm,
second piece of that is the fact that they are doing these type of audits. Why they're some of folks that are really willing to die on this hill, you have to really ask yourself, well, maybe they know there's waste. Maybe they don't want folks to realize how poorly it's been run for the last couple years. I don't know, but that is normal. Like you said it before on the last show when we talked to Amanda from NRA. There's no business in the world that can run in the red that long and never have a hope of getting out of the red
mhm.
and not even know who the hell's in they're working their stuff. It doesn't happen in the
No,
private sector ever. It's
no.
impossible. But this organization, the government, seems to be running like that all the time.
Mhm.
And it can't sustain. It just can't sustain.
No. And you look at the 70,000 plus people that opted to take the
Oh,
early
the
out.
severance package, yeah.
Yeah, whether you can call it that, the early out, it doesn't matter. They opted, they were given an option, right? They weren't forced. Hey man, here's an option for you. You opt to leave, here's what we're gonna do, cover you till September or whatever it was. Yeah, and people went. But you have to ask yourself, if somebody's gonna sit there, you ask somebody. So if you're boss X and you ask your employee, hey man, what'd you do today? And they give you some lip, that tells me they're probably on there watching TikTok cat videos. If TikTok's even still around, I don't even know. But um, dude, you should be able to rattle off what you've gotten done today or the last week or month or whatever. It should just happen, right? It,
Yeah,
it shouldn't be an argument. And as soon as you hear those people arguing about it, to me, that's red flags. They're going up, going, you're not doing,
absolutely.
yeah.
Because it
So,
tells me not only is there a good possibility now some people might just be salty, but
mhm,
it's a good possibility that some of those folks just really aren't doing hardly anything and no
mhm,
one's checking on them, which is
yeah.
to me even worse
uh,
because they're, you got someone who's responsibility for a certain subsection of an agency, and
mhm,
this is their task, and there's
mhm,
no one coming around to check to see if they did it.
yeah. So
They
it
never even see them. That I had no idea that that many employees of the federal government were still working from home. Had no idea.
Well, thank Uncle Joe for that one.
Yeah.
He
Well, that's a great
basically,
point.
I mean, let's be an honest broker. So from all the fear mongering that was instilled, all the policies that the federal government put out there, and then I think his last fail swoop of the pen was what 2020. You ain't got to come back to work till 2029 or something crazy. He did something that was astronomical. It's like, for what?
Yeah.
Just as a final stick it to Trump as he's coming in.
And
But
that's who the American people should really be upset about is how this has been running the way it has been for the last, 4 or 5 years.
yeah,
That's really what they need to be upset about because that's why we're here. It's the same
mhm,
reason why we're here with the border. And like you said, we've said it before that there's people that had their appointments who were trying to go the legal route for the to become a citizen had to have their thing canceled. Well, that's because we let 15 million people in this country illegally.
mhm,
We opened up the borders. Now this is where we're at. That's who you should be mad at. Those folks who did that. And you let these folks just not even come to work. This really didn't come to our attention really until the mayor of DC came to them saying, "Hey, we have a revenue crisis in DC because nobody's coming to work.
Mhm.
I remember we showed that video and we talked about it multiple times. Nobody's paying for parking. No one's patronizing the stores. No one's going to the hospitality. Nothing. No one works here.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
It's unbelievable, but it's not surprising because of what was allowed to happen, policies that were put in place. And let's be an honest broker. If you're doing things remotely, even more if the boss goes, "Hey, what are you doing?" Or if you have some project that's due, "Hey, let me see your project."
Yeah, where are we
It's
at? Yeah, give me an
it,
update.
it,
Something.
it's I mean, how many times let's think about it. Just between us, how many times we chat a day
Mhm.
on different stuff?
Yeah, "Hey, what are you doing
Well,
today? What do you got going on? Because I'm gonna do this." I mean, it's
yeah,
that simple.
it's that simple,
Yeah.
right? Or if we're doing something, "Hey, man, you're working on something, I'm working on something. Hey, man, where are we at? Hey, I got this," or I got a snag here," or whatever. That's just business 101.
Yeah.
Yet, imagine if you were to call me and go, "Hey, man, what you doing?" "Pfft, who are you to ask? Why do you care?" Right? Like if I got all snippy.
Oh,
Huh?
well, I thought we were supposed to do a show today, that's all.
Yeah. Well, yeah,
Oh,
I'm in my fuzzy bunny slippers. Leave me alone. It's like, come on.
yeah, I saw a clip today where they said the biggest terms that were searched in the last, like, week and a half was, defense attorneys in that area. I wonder it was, like, Maryland and Virginia. I'm like, "Why?
Mhm.
Why?
Yeah.
That's weird."
What's coming up?
Could it be something totally unrelated? Yeah, it could be, but does anybody believe that? Nope.
No.
That's a great point, man. I would come in and, I'd walk into my office and by honestly, by the time I was at my office and walking and pulling my chair out from under my desk to get ready to drop my stuff in the fridge for lunch or whatever, I had people asking me stuff already.
Mhm.
That's is that an annoying kind of a thing? Sometimes, but is that a good problem? Yes. And then the next thing we did is we talked about, hey, what we got going on today? Where are
Mhm.
we at on this case? Where are we on that? That happened every day. I can't
Yeah.
imagine running that office. And at one point, I had one unit that it was. I think I had 30 people to
Mhm.
myself.
Mhm.
They had some merging and some supervisors had been transferred for promotion and stuff like that. So it kind of fell on me, which is fine. But that's a handful. I get it. But I can't imagine how that place would have run and everybody would have got the information that I was passing down from the top if they weren't available to me, if they're all working from home.
Yeah.
I couldn't even imagine that.
Or you sit there and go, "Hey, what's the status of this case?" And all of a sudden you get lip. "Pff, who are
Yeah,
you to ask me?"
yeah. I'll get
Like
to
like
yeah.
like it's
You can't ask me
insulting.
that.
This is commonplace in a normal work environment.
Yeah,
And unfortunately, the federal government is not a normal work environment.
yeah.
And I mean, I'm glad to see the blinders get pulled off. I'm glad to see the exposure of all the fraud, waste, and abuse.
Yeah, I do like that it's on but most people's radar now as something that
Mhm.
needs to be addressed. I'm very happy about that. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Now you're going down to the individual level, little accountability. Nothing wrong with that. And at the end of the day, part of this it was a shake the way it was explained of, well, hey, if you're not coming back with you did anything, are you an actual employee? Are you still working? Are you whatever? I
yeah.
mean, who's think about it. You had to do a roll call for people. Hey, man, who do I have on duty today?
Mhm. Yeah,
That's basic leadership 101.
yeah. I mean, some of those agencies are so big that it's not outside the realm of possibility that you may not lay eyes on someone for a long time,
Mhm.
and I get that. But if you're seeing correspondence and you're seeing work product and you're seeing all these things happen, then this should have been a no-brainer. And in this many people, tens of thousands of workers, this is a common tactic about putting stuff out there just to see who opens it and that kind of thing, just to make sure that not necessarily to say, hey, that's a lazy person. No one's really coming out saying you're lazy, you're this. They might not be opening their emails anymore because they absolutely don't work there anymore.
Mhm.
that's a possibility. You have to clean all that stuff up. And just
Yeah.
like we talked about this in pre-production with the crew for the exclusive content that they got, that if you send out something that has a name of someone who's 150 years old and they are still registered to be getting Social Security, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a fraud. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're receiving checks, but it does mean that this person doesn't need to be on this list. That's just one thing that they found right away. And I
Mhm.
can almost guarantee that there are checks going out. Somebody's getting something,
Oh, th
without a doubt.
there and that's part of it, right? Is just cleaning house for the fraud. So, who is manipulating the system, potentially, collecting checks that don't need to be collecting checks? Because at the end of the day, uh, to me, it can only benefit those recipients that are collecting Social Security. If you sit there and go, "Hey, we found $1 billion," and I'm just throwing hypothetical numbers out. We found $1 billion worth of fraudulent claims, checks going out to dead people, whatever the case may be. What do you think they're going to do with that money? Stick it back, hopefully stick it back into the fund. And those people that are on Social Security, hey man, you get a bump in your benefits.
Great point.
I mean, I can't see we were spending this money anyway. Put it back into the system. They're already
Yeah.
talking about sending individuals, refund checks. Okay, cool. If you and this is what people always get bent around Social Security. Nobody's looking at exit. Nobody's looking, just looking to make the system more efficient. Hey, is
Yep.
there fraud there? Boom. So you clean all that stuff up. Now the people that's actually receiving Social Security might get a bump in benefits. How about
That's a
them
great
apples?
that's a great point, Rick, because the gaslighting that's occurring from all these congressmen and buddy, they know these are entitlements and they know Trump said they're not touching entitlements.
Mhm,
They know that, but yet they still say they're coming after your Medicaid, they're coming after your Social Security.
mhm.
It benefits the solvency of the Social Security and Medicaid by cleaning out as much fraud, waste, and abuse that you can to ensure that the money that's being paid in by, folks of our age,
Mhm.
something's going to be there for you when you get to that point where you're supposed to be receiving it. That's what people need to understand. If you have to be able, and here's another thing too, it's a large portion of our budget, a
Mhm.
large portion. We can get rid of all the frivolous spending out of other things, clean this up. It's going to ensure that Social Security and Medicaid doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
It's going to help that. And that's not what they're not being honest with them and they're scaring people. They're scaring
Eh,
people to death.
but that's the Dems' tactic is fear. They run on emotions, not facts. So they're gonna sit there and tell Granny, "Oh yeah, Elon's sitting there scrubbing your stuff. He's gonna take your money." No, they're just trying to clean it. It's no different with looking at the IRS records, whatever the case may be.
Right.
What other fraud, waste, and abuse you got going on there? Right? It's just on one side, this is the part that I am absolutely stunned at. On one side, you wanted to hire 87,000 more IRS employees. Well, if you're working for the IRS, there's only one thing you're going to do with 87,000 more people. That's audit more people, take more of my money, or cause me more pain and suffering when you sit there and go, we're going to audit you. But the left didn't bat an eye,
No.
didn't say a word.
Nope.
And then you sit there and go, oh, we've found some fraud within Social Security. Oh, they're coming to take it. They're
Right.
taking your Social Security.
Yeah.
I just, brother.
It doesn't make sense. And not only that, everybody used to love Elon Musk.
Mhm,
Everybody loved Elon Musk. And now there's a conversation. If you make sure we got this, if you're not watching, if you're just listening on the audio side of the house, make sure you check out the On the Range cast on X. It's a lot of fun. Had some people getting after me a little bit today. We were having a conversation, but they were saying, "Hey, Elon Musk, he's a billionaire. This one UFC fighter." And he was thinking critically, which I really appreciated.
mhm.
And he said, "Hey, this money that's going to these rockets and all these other things, why don't we help out the people?" Okay, I understand exactly what he's saying, and I think that's what he's trying to do It's just not from SpaceX. SpaceX, people are attacking it and saying that it's subsidized and all this other stuff. SpaceX is sending up a lot of payloads into space for a lot of humongous companies. The bulk of the money is coming from their work. And not
Yeah.
only that, all before this all started, because then they started attacking. Well, I guess they're not going to go through his books. He's getting all these grants. You and I both know, Rick, that if there was something fishy, it would have came out a long time ago when he said he was going to side with Trump. Not a peep. As a matter of fact, they were talking about how efficient and how low the budget is compared to all these other space agencies, one of which folded last year. So I'm not buying that. Just keep that in mind, folks, when you're talking about all this stuff and how we're not going to turn our government over to billionaires and stuff like that. Well, these billionaires here, they know how to make money. They know how to run things efficiently, and they know how to build and get things done. Elon Musk went into X and scrubbed it. 85% of it, never missed a beat, and almost doubled their revenue coming in. Now, I know what the complaint was. Well, they didn't have all this money coming in. Well, yeah, they weren't, but the amount of profit margin that was coming in was much higher because they didn't have to pay anybody anymore. They were doing it so efficiently that they were making money.
Yeah.
So it's just they're gaslighting you folks. Try to look at it critically. Now, some of it might be true. I'm not telling you that. But what I'm saying is what they are telling you in hysterics and they're singing in front of these agencies, it's just not the way I would go if I was a Democratic Party because it's on the wrong side of things right now.
No, totally. And the interesting part, this will be interesting. You have to look at when Trump was in office, his last term, his net worth, he lost $1 billion while he served. I'd be curious. And again, we're only a couple months into this thing, so we really don't have any analytics on it yet. I'd be curious what's up with Musk's net worth with him doing this additional duty. Right?
Well, I know he makes a lot of money for the Starlink has been huge, T-Mobile, mobile, all that stuff, but he's not getting a dime from the government.
No, but and I'm not saying his check from the government. I'm just saying time, your number one most precious commodity.
Yeah.
You can't buy it. You
Nope.
can't rent it. Once it's gone, it's gone. So at a certain point, and again, you just don't become a billionaire from not knowing how to manage your time, but
No.
he is taking an awful lot of time and giving it to the government to help this efficiency.
Yeah.
Is there a potential repercussion? Because the left's going to tell you, oh, he's looking where to get his fingers in the pot. Dude, he's got enough money, right? My man could sit there and go to the house, put his fuzzy bunny slippers on, never leave the house again. And he is he's got wealth for generations to go on.
Yeah. And I think that's a great point because now it seems like the norm is some young person out of college, maybe he was a veteran and he was a lawyer for a little bit. All of a sudden he gets elected into public office and he's there for 50 years. My opinion is you take someone who's been doing, he's a billionaire and he's 45 years old and he's made a couple $1 billion running huge corporations and making them efficient and making them elf companies for himself, efficient, lucrative, and fun. And he's did it multiple times. Multiple times. And now he wants to give back and take a huge pay cut to be in the government. That's the person I'm looking for. That's the person I'm looking for.
100%. And here's the thing. They don't, we used to have these things in place where, let's just say these wealthy individuals do some, whether you want to say consulting or whatever for the government, weren't getting paychecks.
A lot. Yep.
Right? Weren't getting paychecks. Hey, just keep them busy because they've got the wealth. They don't need a paycheck from the government. Why not get back to that model?
Right.
So I 100% am with you. And why wouldn't you want somebody that knows how to run a business running the government?
Yeah.
Because they know how to be efficient.
They know how to hold people. It doesn't benefit them. That's the thing. It's a hard sell to begin with.
Yeah.
Elon Musk is a patriot because, and so is Donald Trump. They do not need this one
No,
bit.
no. You look at Elon. Why did he buy Twitter? He bought Twitter to preserve free speech.
Yes.
If that's not a patriot, if that's not putting your money where your mouth is. Now, granted, I'm sure he did his homework. And is this thing going to make me money? I mean, he's not just going to dump billions of dollars in a losing effort. But it was also, how do we get free speech back? So
Yeah.
for that, I mean, just look at his track record. But the left is going to tell you that he's a Nazi, he's a fascist, he's whatever other words they're going to throw out there. So don't fall for it. And at the end of the day, just look at the example he's using to hold people accountable.
Yeah.
And if you kind of use that same principle back on yourself and be that 1% better, dude, you're going to sit there and crush life.
Yeah. And we say the same thing about the president. And
Mhm.
he's holding up his end of the bargain, and nobody ever believed that he wouldn't.
No,
Nobody, not
no.
even in the media that don't like him. No one would think he's not stealing anything. No one even
He's
thinks
given
that.
he's giving his paycheck to charity.
Exactly. Exactly.
So,
Yeah, it's interesting, and, the accountability piece for us is huge. It's huge. We talk about it a lot, and we're not perfect,
no.
but at the same time, dude, I'd never look, they had some good reasons. Hey, look, some of the stuff is secure. I can't do it. And they had another way of having those folks who had, sensitive materials, protected, and they could still fill out the email. Fair enough. And yeah, we would have liked to have had, I know, Pam Bondi was like, hey, next time, let's just go through me. Let's go through
Mhm,
me. Totally agree. But I can tell you right now, I wouldn't have made a peep if the president of the United States had his auditor, and we know who his auditor is. Send me an email, I'd fill it out and send it out. I wouldn't have said anything.
mhm.
And that's not what we're seeing. It's not a good look,
No.
and I don't think it's really helping. That Carville, um, the analyst for the Democrats, I kind
Mhm.
of like him. He's a character.
Oh, yeah.
He didn't call this one at all, but he's kind of saying the same thing. He's like, I don't know why they're making so much noise because it's on the wrong side of things. Now, he did go on to say that he believes Trump's going to collapse in the next, his popularity is going to collapse in the next couple of weeks. But, I don't agree with that. But he did say it. I don't think this, singing out front of the USAID and singing, songs and complaining about coming to work in an office like everybody else does in the United States is not a good look. And it's not going to
Mm-mm.
garner any support to the Democratic Party at all.
Now, that ship is sinking faster than Titanic,
It's a
and
mess.
they have to collectively go back and do some rebranding
Yeah.
because their current brand is
Mm.
off mark with the American people. Not even close. They are 180 out.
Yeah. And
And
they're toting Bernie Sanders out there talking
dude,
about, my man, didn't he go to Russia a bunch of times, and he's communist. He was a communist back in the
they,
day.
they all got communist ties, man.
I know.
It's if you look at it, the verbiage they're using straight out of the communist playbook,
Yeah.
um, going after emotion straight out of the communist playbook, right? They're straight up commies.
Yeah.
And if McCarthy was here back in the 50s, that Democratic Party, they'd all be freaking behind bars because
Yeah.
they'd scoop them all up, right? You
Yeah.
got communist ties. Sorry, nothing personal, just business. See you later.
Yeah.
Um, but we can hope that their blinders will be taken off as it progresses. And some of
Yeah.
that old leadership that's up there, because I'm sure you've got Pelosi and Schumer and the rest of them bozos up there telling the new guys, this is the hill we die on. No, it's what is your constituents? What do they want? But of course, the Dems never do that. They always go with what is, for me. And that's just like you got the governor of Wisconsin changing names, right? Dude, we are so past that point, right? Wait,
Uh,
why are you going back
I don't
to
know,
changing
dude.
names? Right? Like
I don't know.
that boat sailed. But
Dude,
anyway, I
they had Hanoi Jane on there
oh god.
freaking giving a speech at an awards thing. It's like, so
Yeah.
we got all these folks that were freaking protesting the Vietnam War now in charge of the Democratic Party. You know,
Yeah.
it's crazy. It's crazy.
Dude.
There's no one to follow. And
No.
then, the former Vice President Kamala at the scene of the fires. Did you see that?
No, I saw when she
Oh,
went to the she went to the Lakers game though.
yeah. I mean,
And you
good for her. You know, go out
well,
there.
no, 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 no. You know how much attention she got? Nobody cared.
No.
Nobody was trying to shake her hand. No, nothing. Right? Her own state, they could have cared less. So it goes to show that party is dead.
Yeah.
And they need to rebrand. They need to hold themselves accountable. Get back with the American people, get back to the American values. Then maybe you might have a fighting chance. But until then, they keep going down this road and that's the hill they're going to die on. That party's going to be dead.
Yeah.
So
She should have just been thankful, sat there and had a nice time and rooted and talked to the
what
people sitting behind him, in front of him. You know what I'm saying? I mean, then she went to California. It was a disaster, dude. It was a disaster.
she has no business even being in the
No.
public spotlight anymore because nobody likes her. She's
Oh God,
fake.
she sounded awful, dude.
I mean, all the truths that's come out about her, all the backside manipulate, dude, fake, right?
Yeah. Yeah, they put
And
her
for
in an
those of you,
impossible position.
yeah, and for those of you that voted for her, I'm sorry, right? I
I
don't
am
know
too.
what you saw, but man,
Yeah.
she was not the right person for nothing.
No.
So
Anyway, folks, be sure to go to ontheRangePodcast.com. We got it up here on the screen so people can see it. It's a good looking website. We're really proud of it. And if you want to check out the 45-47 crew hat, it's a good looking hat. Go check it out. There's several of them. We got the white out, the crew hat. We got the black out. We also have the multicolor you can do some stuff with. But go check out that 45-47 hat. It's a great gift. It turned
oh yeah.
out a lot better than we thought. And
Mhm.
we're real happy with the way things are going, and I think a lot of people are too. So go check that out. Also, make sure you go to warhog.com and kellydefense.com and try out the crew membership for free. Try out that crew membership. Check it out. It's a lot of fun. If you like this content, you get a bunch of exclusive stuff. And, always look at the Firearms Training Notebook too. Be accountable to yourself. Write your
Mhm.
stuff down. See your progression. But yeah, man, good show today, Rick.
Yeah, buddy. Crew members, stand by. We got some bonus content for you. For the rest of you guys, make sure you guys train hard, stay safe, and we'll see you on the range.